the wind can blow you off your course. So you have to constantly correcting. So the wind speed is crucial for launching.
What kind of wind speed would be considered inappropriate?
Actually speaking, there are different criteria for different launch vehicle.
Okay.
Of course, for bigger one, its tolerance may be higher because it's more strong and more even a very strong wind cannot influence its trajectory. But for a very small one, that's different. And also, you know that we mentioned about the different criteria. And for the rain, is also we have different criteria, especially the influence of thunder or lightning is extremely important for us to consider. And also, you know, Mr. Xuansong mentioned about the wind. Actually speaking, the wind condition on the high altitude is also very important. You know that in certain altitude, there are certain kind of wind that can even influence the structure of a launch vehicle. So some damage do happen before during the launch because of this, especially you know in 1990s during the launch of the American US-made satellites in China. Some analysis because of the influence of the high altitude wind, so there is some damage of the payload fairing. So these kind of things do happen before, and we must consider this kind of influence.
It also just goes to show how accurate and precise our forecasters can be.
It's critical. It's important.
So how frequent? This regarding weather, let's say weather, just presume weather condition is all fine, but how frequently would a launch window come about? So we're about to see, I think the astronauts are about to enter the spaceship, and that is Wang Haozi there.
Yeah.
First to
03.
enter.
She's saluting and then...
She's number 3.
Yeah.
And then
So she
goes first.
She's code is 03.
and she'll be followed by Song.
Song, yeah.
02.
Song Lingdong is 02.
No.
So she's this is what you were saying, sliding in. I wasn't sure
Sitting
what you
down,
meant by
sliding
that.
in.
So
but
as I
literally
mentioned,
sliding
we
in.
will first go. Oh, this is camera inside the orbital module. You can see
And
that
that's the staff inside.
they will first go inside this orbital module with the help of the ground crew. Yep.
Oh, so there's a crew
you
inside.
can see all kinds of cargos in the shelves around the orbital module. So she already inside the orbital module and then go down to the re-entry capsule.
Are they sliding in just because of the sheer size of this hatch?
Actually speaking, it's
really
very,
wide?
very narrow.
So the only way that's
Exactly.
basically the only way they can enter.
Yes, that's the only way, yes.
So there is a hatch between the orbital module and the re-entry capsule.
And that's as far as the staff can go, right? The support staff. I mean, can they fit any more people into the orbital entry, the re-entry?
Re-entry
modules
cannot
for this
cannot fit anyone
just
in
the
there,
3
yes.
astronauts.
So I believe that Ms. Wang will sit in the seat closest to the camera.
Okay, let's see if you're right. Well, I'm pretty sure you are, since
Maybe
you've
they have
seen
more
many of
cameras.
these.
Maybe more cameras.
They do. But usually we use the side one, which has a better view.
No.
I mean, this is a very long, drawn-out process. They're very careful with every step they tread in there.
One thing interesting is to know that the seat themselves are designed for the astronaut individually, so that they can experience maximum G's, gravities. We know that the human body cannot tolerate more than 12 G's, but these are seats that designed in such a way that you sit in, you're fit very tightly, and you can tolerate more gravities.
So it's got to be very snug, fitted to their body shapes. Do they consider weight as well? Is that a factor in the chair design, or is it just mostly the body shape?
Mostly body shape, and mostly your height, your deep contours and everything.
Well, we can hear the voice from the launch site system. They are just conducting another numerical simulation of the launch.
So it takes a while for her to get comfortable there.
Yeah, it's a tight fit.
Yeah.
And also, we can hear a lot of radio announcement. These are exercise after exercise, to make sure that all functions all systems are go for the launch. Not only, these are launching sequence, and also they have ground crews, ground stations to check their links.
Mr. Song Yingdong is now going into inside the cabin.
02 sliding in.
Mr. Song Lingdong is the one during the re-entry. He will in charge of the cutting off the parachute. So that is the role of 02.
I mean, they will all have been assigned specific tasks during this whole launch process, right?
Because his seat is near the button to cut off the parachute when landed.
Is it always 02 who does
Always.
the parachute? Always 02.
So
he has the handle.
So what price Yaping most? Because during the Shenzhou-19 mission, the capsule landed vertically. This is the reason because she pressed the button in the most right moment. So it
won't pull off. Yeah.
Yes, in most cases it will be pulled off, as Yenson mentioned. But you know that if it can land vertically, the astronaut will feel very convenient.
But how hard is that to?
Very, very hard. You seldom have the chance. In most cases, almost more than 90%, they will lie down because you don't have the right moment to push the button to cut off the.
So do you think for her, for Wang Yaping, that was by chance, coincidence, or was
that
calculated?
And lucky enough,
yeah.
we only have two examples: the Shenzhou-6 mission and the Shenzhou-13 mission. Only in these two missions, the capsule landed vertically.
Right. And there's the commander.
Well, finally, the commander will go inside and sit in the middle.
01, Cai Shuzhou.
He's
our veteran. He's our returning astronaut.
Please notice today that all the members from the second batch of Chinese astronauts have already have their chance to go to outer space, and among them, 6 of them, including this one, has already have their second mission, and 4 of them has already become commanders.
He was last up there. Cai Shuzhou was last up there in 2022, right? So I think it was.
So after him,
2 years before.
Yeah. And 2 years a break in between going up to space, is that a kind of a normal amount of time?
You can go a little bit faster, but it's physically challenging. You have to take a half a year to recover physically, because it's a long duration flight. It's not a week flight, but it's a half-year flight. So you lose a lot of bone mass, your cardiovascular system changes, your muscle loses. So you have to regain all of those, and you have to have good physical exercise and nutrition. And then you get recovered and trained for the new mission. Right. You have to do a lot of simulations, train with your new crew, and also, so that takes time.
So this is a pretty standard amount of time then in between missions. Yeah, 6 months to recoup, and then another lead up to this. He was up, Cai Shuzhou was last up there for 6 months as well, I believe, right, with the 14. The 14 was the first mission crewed mission to be in the space station for that long period of time.
Not the first one. In Shenzhou-18 mission, Mr. Ye Guangfu will the first one in China who have accumulated time in space for 1 year. Mr. Ye Guangfu, when he come back to the Earth 5 days later, he will be the first one that conducted the accumulated time in outer space will be about 1 year. Mr. Ye Guangfu will be the first one. Because in Shenzhou-13 mission, he also stayed in outer space for half a year. So this time, another half a year.
And then Cai Shuzhou will be then, I guess, the second astronaut
to have
stayed for accumulated
to have this
1 year.
It's a standard half-year mission for every crew, so to maintain the permanent presence of human being in the station itself. So this was designed in such a way, and also supporting system like cargo ships, life support system, oxygens, waters, food, and all are designed in such a way so that the crew can be sustained for half a year.
Initially, the crew was up there, I think, I can't remember which Shenzhou it was, but for just 3 months, right? And then that expanded to the 6 months.
And there were also queries about emergency cases. For example, we know the International Space Station has 2 astronauts that cannot come back with their original capsule.
Boeing style liner.
Boeing designed, and also the question was asked, how about the Chinese station? And we know that there is this is Shenzhou-18 mission. We have 19 mission already in the vicinity. Once this is launched, the 19 will be on the pad for any emergency cases.
20. We'll have 20
so 20 is going to be standby for any cases.
top of the ground crew. Go more smoothly. And also, you know that usually the ground crew have two categories. One from the medical team, usually belongs to the astronaut system, who are in charge of monitoring the health condition of the astronaut. And also, the other team belongs to the spacecraft system, because you know that all these modules belongs to the Shenzhou spaceship. So they also need to ensure that everything is okay, including that finally they need to close the hatch, close the front hatch of the re-entry capsule, and then close the side hatch of the orbital module, and then close the panel of the payload fairing. So with these measures, so at this moment, if they have something wrong, they can only escape based on the emergency escape system. So that is the reason why the top platform should be opened first.
What are they passing around right now? That little clipboard.
Well, you may notice that they are still. You can see that Miss Wang is checking some menus.
A lot of fiddling around there.
Some handbooks. So that I believe that inside this handbook not only have the instructions of how to do in normal condition, but also have all kinds of instructions on in abnormal case what you should do.
Emergency case.
Yeah. So they have to be familiar with all these kinds of tasks and also do all kinds of trainings before the launch.
There's a checklist for them to go through.
Exactly.
And that's what they're looking at right now, isn't it? Well, let's check in with our reporters. So we do have the three taikonauts, Cai Xuzhe, Song Lingdong, and Wang Haoze, now in the capsule and making themselves comfortable there. And the spacecraft will be soon taking off from the Jiuquan satellite launch pad and bound for the Tiangong space station. So Sun Ye is at the Satellite Launch Center and Zheng Yibing is at the Beijing Aerospace Control Center. So let's check in with both of them. Hi, Sun Ye. So what do you have for us? How are the preparations there? What's the mood like?
Hi there, Jiayang. So we are 1.5 kilometers away from the launch pad, and you can see the rocket is still wrapped in those blue rotation platforms. It's wrapped there. It's protected from the chill and from everything else. But really, the temperature isn't that big a problem, considering all the preparations they've been doing. When that rocket reveals itself in time, you'll find there are heating pads taped around the rocket. That's for an extra layer of warmth, and when it's launched, those heating packs will come off. We've just talked to experts in the rocket system, in the launch center system, and in the spaceship system, and all these experts say everything is proceeding according to plan, smoothly, and as they've always said and usually say, everything is normal and it's in good condition. But we do want to share a little bit of things that happened earlier. Now that the taikonauts are in the spaceship and they have traveled from that square of dream come true in that seeing off ceremony to the launch pad, earlier we also traveled in a minibus on that whole path. So I think you have seen the aerial shots, how this whole place is lit up and decked up, but we have seen what the taikonauts are seeing at their eye level or on the street level. One thing that's quite interesting are the road signs. Here, the road signs, the street names, they are quite meaningful and special. There is the road of technology. There is the street of aerospace. There is the street of peace. And on those street names, there are even more messages taped on there, including going to space is romantic, space exploration is limitless, let's go explore space together. So these are probably the last messages, the last words the taikonauts see before they enter into that launch tower and into the spaceship. And all of these words, like what they've been seeing throughout the day, are the best wishes from people here. Jiayang.
Oh, that's definitely nice messages to see before they embark on this really important mission. Thank you so much, Sun Ye at the Jiuquan Launch Center. And now let's head over to Zheng Yibing, who's at the Beijing Aerospace Control Center, and that is the place which will oversee the launch. Yibing, what are you seeing there? What's happening?
Well, yes, Zhou Yang. The Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center now, the Shenzhou-19 crewed flight mission is in the launch sequence. But here in Beijing, the Chinese capital, the Aerospace Control Center, from the big screen behind me, we can see the multiple angles of the Shenzhou-19 crew, their status in the spacecraft at the Shenzhou-19. Well, this is a center which is what you call the Beijing Aerospace Control Center. Well, last time when we were here was for the Chang'e 6 lunar mission, and this time is for the Shenzhou-19 crewed flight mission. And this center is for the whole mission of the Shenzhou-19 mission, and it coordinates all systems from the launching center to the landing site, and also the measurement and control stations across the world, and as well as the China's Tiangong space station. So from here, we can not only hear the brief and short communication between the Beijing Aerospace Control Center and other centers and other stations, we can hear also the typical Beijing copy between them. So that is really impressive. And on the big screen behind me, we can see the status of the Shenzhou-19 crew. They have entered the Shenzhou-19 spacecraft while the three tachonauts are reading the handbook, the menu for this whole mission. And they look very firm and determined for the upcoming mission, and for the ignition and for the handover in space to meet with the Shenzhou-18 crew. And in the coming hours, we could also see the status of the Shenzhou-18 crew. The crew has been in space for half a year. They are making the final preparation to welcome the newcomers to the Tiangong space station, and they will hand over in the Tiangong space station for a couple of days. So that is a really impressive moments to come. So back to you, Jiang.
Yes, we're looking at the very same images as well. Thank you so much, Yibing at the Beijing Space Control Center.
We notice that all these three crew members are checking their handbooks, so they are very, but they are very confident, but still they are very careful to ensure that they are familiar with any step.
That's actually a really similar scene to seeing them come back to Earth as well, right? They've got that little checklist. Yeah. But what would be different then on the launch checklist and the return checklist?
Well, I think the launch checklist would be a shorter one, because it's more of a routine. It's it's not controlled by the crew, but they have to just to provide the information inside the capsule. But all the launching sequence is not part of the crew pressing the button, but it's someone on the ground in the control room press the firing of the rocket, and then there's it's less than 10 minutes you'll be out of atmosphere and out of the Earth.
So is this more of a reassurance thing?
I think they have gone through all the exercises many times, but they're quite serious, because this time is for real. So they have to go through the process very carefully. And also, as Professor Yang mentioned, there's what we call a full-time safety protection. Outside the capsule, the astronauts can slide down to a bunker, and there's like a rubber tube for astronauts to go sliding down from the lift. And also inside the capsule now, the what we call escape tower is activated. So in case
we're at the 2-hour countdown now. Sorry to interrupt you there.
It's T-minus 2 hours and counting.
Yeah. So 2 hours to go till launch.
So in different countdown moments, we have the checking of the different critical systems, including the launch site systems, the rocket systems, the Shenzhou spacecraft system, the TT&C systems, and also our Tiangong space station systems. Everything should be go ahead.
So it's like a protocol they have already exercised many times. Once you call 2 hours preparations, then there is an activation of a number of actions, and including all the systems.
Look. The first platform is now opened, as I mentioned.
The very top platform.
The very top one.
And then it will be the very bottom one.
You can see that the emergency escape tower, we can already have a direct eyesight with that.
We're hearing more system checks there.
That means the activation of the escape tower.
Yes.
To ensure the safety of the astronauts.
Mr. Xu, I understand that you get to have a little break now, but we'll bring you back a little later in the program as we continue to watch the launch.
So when the emergency escape tower ignited, so there will be no any obstacle because the first platform has already opened.
Right.
So this is also a safety measure.
What China has laid out is roadmap for space science development, and one of the key goals of the plan is to become a space industry leader by 2050. And other objectives include a manned lunar mission. Let's take a look.
China announced its first ever medium and long-term plans for space science development. A variety of key research areas have been listed and include exploring the origin and evolution of the universe, gravitational waves, the sun, the earth, the heliosphere for a panoramic view of sun-earth, the habitability of celestial bodies in the solar system and beyond, and search for extraterrestrial life, the laws of matter movement and life activities in space, and more.
规划提出了至2050年我国空间科学发展的路线图。
The plan proposes a roadmap for China's space science development up until 2050. Between 2028 and 2035, operations on China's space station will continue and will implement missions such as a manned lunar exploration mission. Around 15 satellite missions will also be conducted. Between 2036 and 2050, we plan to conduct some 30 space science missions and become a global leader in certain areas.
China's manned space program has revealed that Chinese taikonauts will travel to the moon by 2030. These lunar expeditions are expected to involve cutting-edge science experiments.
Well, the Shenzhou-19 crew will be carrying out 86 space science research and technology experiments during their mission. A spokesperson of the China Manned Space Agency gave the details at a news conference.
载人航天工程自立项之初
Since the very beginning of the program, we have put a great importance on space science as a vital part of development strategy. Following the concept of building ships to build stations and build stations for utilization, we integrate the engineering and scientific objectives and promote them at the same time. Our program's space science and application missions are critical parts of the national strategy. We have actively participated in the making of the national medium and long-term plan, and will see it to be implemented. During the Shenzhou-19 flight, according to the plan section on biological and physical science in space, 86 space science and technology experiments will be carried out in the field of space life science, fundamental physics of microgravity, space material science, space medicine, new space technology, etc. For instance, structural analysis of protein crystals grown under microgravity conditions and non-equilibrium dynamics of soft matter. It's expected that a number of scientific achievements will be made in frontier research on fundamental theories, preparation of new materials, mechanisms of physiological effects of space radiation and weightlessness, submagnetic biological effects, and molecular mechanisms, etc. In addition, on the occasion of the second anniversary of CSS completion, we will publicly release the progress report on scientific research and application of China's space station to the society, introducing the representative results achieved since CSS entered the orbit. In the future, we will use the plan as a guide to further focus on key issues, strengthen the organic integration of scientific objectives and human spaceflight missions, and make greater contributions to the high-quality development of China's space science and space costs.
Now, we've been playing a bit of musical chairs. Professor Yang and I were where we were, but we now have Wu Lei here in the studio with us, our veteran space reporter. Wu Lei, great to have you in here. Wu Lei, you've covered a lot of space missions and China's lunar program as well. Tell us a bit about your experience. How does this one compare?
Yeah, exactly. This is my fourth time to cover the human space flight missions after the Shenzhou-11, Shenzhou-16, and Shenzhou-17. And this is my first time in the studio to share the experience of these valuable and memorable experiences. And I found that in recent years, for the human spaceflight missions, global space society have been paying a lot of attention on these missions. They want to know more about these tachonauts and also the missions on board the China's Tiangong space station. So in recent years, whenever we go to these kind of international space meetings, conferences, and also the exhibitions, the global space experts want to understand the latest development of China's Tiangong space station, the experiments to be conducted on that, and also China's lunar and Mars explorations. So here, this time for the Shenzhou-19 crew, a lot of attention also being attached. So they will be following carefully about these spacewalks and also a kind of experiments. So early this month, I went to Milan for the International Astronautical Congress. A lot of people asking that the latest about the China's Tiangong space station, what about the telescope and other space experiments to be held in the Tiangong space station. So we can see that a lot of interest and also growing cooperation on this platform, the Tiangong space station, will be conducted.
Well, speaking of this particular mission and the research projects and experiments, can you tell us about some of those? I mean, we're seeing 86 experiments and tasks to do, right?
Absolutely. This morning, I also watched the whole press conference, and I noticed that there are over 86 experiments and tests, because we know that on board the Tiangong space station, inside there are kinds of experiments like space materials, space medicine, and also biospace technology, and also microgravity experiments. And also outside of this cabin, the tachonauts will have these spacewalks, and also they are going to install some kind of space debris protection devices, like, because the Tiangong space station is orbiting about 400 kilometers away from the Earth, and there are a lot of space debris.
Right.
And they are now, for the Shenzhou-18 crew, they have already installed some part of these devices, and Shenzhou-19 crew will continue to install this kind of space debris protection devices. And also they will conduct several times of spacewalks to continue to conduct the experiments outside of the cabin. Because of the microgravity environment, the radiation and other, so there are a lot of experiments that to be put outside of the cabin. And also this time, I heard from my colleagues Sun Ye and Chen Yiling, they have talked to a lot of scientists and also engineers from the Chinese Academy of Sciences. They have brought many kinds of new experiments to the Tiangong space station, because we know every time each crew will conduct different types of experiments. And this time, one experiment that really impressed me most is that they even brought some space flight in the flies, fruit flies.
Living flies.
Yeah, little fruit flies to the Tiangong space station. They want to observe how they grow and how they mutate in that kind of microgravity environment.
Is that the first time they're bringing living animals into space?
No.
This
Last time they even brought some fish.
Oh.
Yeah.
Zebrafish.
Zebrafish in the Tiangong space station. And we believe that in the next few years, more plants, more animals, more
mammals.
Yeah, will be brought to the Tiangong space station. Don't forget that Cai Xuzhe, when he was in his last mission, he even grew a lot of plants, vegetables, and
he ate it.
Yeah, he ate it, and he said that it tastes very good. So we can expect that they will have more interesting kind of tests and experiments in the Tiangong space station.
I mean, they're certainly interesting for the scientific field of research and understanding, but Professor Yang, why do these experiments also matter to us here on Earth? How do they apply to our life?
Well, that I am a technician in space field, you know well about that, but for me, I always recognize it is my duty to be a bridge between the public and our professional field. You see, the manned space activity need a lot of money, need a very long period, and usually the investment is very huge. But we should be very aware that most of the benefit, most of the returns from this manned spacecraft are indirect. Sometimes in most circumstances, you need a very long period for the transfer or transplanting of the technology derived from this kind of human space activities. So the public should be patient, and the public should understand this feature. There are many other examples. You know that from the Apollo program conducted in 1990s and 1970s, the United States benefit from it in all areas. And it's actually speaking, although the program is politics driven, but they do have sufficient return from this program. Today, the space capable nations, including with China, paid more about the efficiency. So we hope that we can do more things with limited budget. But still, with the scientific research experiments conducted in outer space, sooner or later it can benefit our daily life. So, but it's a little bit complicated to describe the relationship between a certain experiment and a certain technology and a certain application in daily life. So for everyone, usually or in most cases, it's hard to explain.
Right.
But it's have very good examples. For instance, we always see that there are the diapers used for babysitters gathered from the urine collection device just today. I believe they must bear that. But for common people, it is a simplified version,
right.
or more cheaper. And also, you can see that the non-stick frying pan is developed because we have new material. And the material, this kind of, as we have already mentioned, the studying on new material is one important field. In our Tiangong space station, we even have more than 2 racks dedicated to the material making. Sometimes we use the laser to heat the metals and to have some new alloys. And sometimes we use the higher microgravity level to conduct some kind of material test. So all these, sooner or later, it can benefit our daily life. But we do not know when it can be. We only be sure it can be.
So we're looking at images now of the launch tower, and the astronauts are sitting comfortably, snugly in their seats.
But you see on the
launch.
video camera, you can see the white one is the top of the emergency escape tower.
Right.
So it's already to the open space. That means that when the emergency escape system is activated, it can save the lives of the astronauts when something dangerous happens. For instance, during history, they do not have some malfunction or explosion of the carrier rocket. But at this moment, I believe that Mr. Gitov from the former Soviet Union, his life was saved because of the emergency escape system activated. And just now, I believe that just inside the International Space Station, the commander of the new crew, Mr. Haig, Nick Haig, he has experienced an emergency escape during the Soyuz MS-10 mission because during the separation of the boosters with the core stage, there is a collision, and the malfunction detection system judged that it is dangerous, and then the escape system activated. So Mr. Nick Haig is the one just experienced these kind of things.
So, I mean, these spaceships, they're constantly being updated with the latest technology, right? So what's different about this particular one compared to its predecessors, to both of you?
Well, you know, that's, we call this Long March 2F a human-rated launch vehicle, or the only human-rated launch vehicle now in China, which means that to concern about the reliability and the safety is much higher than other launch vehicles used currently in China. Because, you know, for human missions with crew inside, we must ensure its safety. Based on the original design, different from its predecessors, the Long March 2E, although the Long March 2F have a similar configuration with the Long March 2E, but it has a new malfunction detection system. So the reliability of the Long March 2F is much higher than Long March 2E. Originally, the flight reliability is about 0.97 or 97%. It can ensure the safety. But still, you know, that this is not safe enough for astronauts. 97% means that for every 100 launch, maybe in 3 times we put the astronauts in danger. So this is not safe enough. So that is the reason we add another emergency escape system. So that is a very remarkable feature of the Long March 2 because it's a very sharp tower. So with this emergency escape system, we can increase the safety of the astronauts from the 1.97 to 1.997, which means that with every 1,000 launch, we only have in 3 cases the lives of the astronauts may be threatened. So this is already acceptable. But today, you know that with the launch of so many Shenzhou spaceships, the reliability, I don't know the exact figure, but the reliability and also the safety for the astronaut is also increased.
Yeah.
So today, with more and more practice, the Long March 2F and the combination with the Shenzhou spacecraft is already become a very, very experienced and very reliable crew transportation system for our Tiangong space station.
Don't forget, China is also developing the new generation manned rocket, the Long March 10, and also new rocket, new spacecraft for the manned lunar missions before 2030. So the scientists already developed that prototype, and that I think in the next few years they will conduct the tests and also the launch before around 2028, before it can be used to launch the technonauts to, on the moon.
So that will be the second human-rated launch vehicle of China. And it is based on the 5-meter diameter core stage. So it's much bigger than our Long March 12 because the core stage diameter is 3.35 meters. So with the technology we get based on the Long March 5 series, we can have the experience to make the Long March 10 launch vehicle within 2 years. As Mr. Woolley has already mentioned, maybe the maiden flight will be conducted in 2027 or 2028.
All right, well, let's get back to this current spacecraft that's carrying the Shenzhou-19, and let's hear a little bit more about the system, and our reporter Chen Yingling spoke to a researcher.
The Shenzhou-19 is the 4th manned spacecraft for a mission to China's space station in its use and development stage. Its structure consists of 3 modules, similar to the previous Shenzhou spacecrafts.
The Shenzhou manned spacecraft is mainly composed of 3 sections, namely the orbital module, the re-entry module, and the propellant module. The orbital module is mainly the work and living area for the taikonauts after entering orbit and is equipped with sensors for rendezvous and docking with the Tiangong space station. The re-entry model can be seen as a cockpit. The propellant module is equipped with solar panels and engines, mainly to provide power.
The main upgrade of the Shenzhou-19 spacecraft is its loading capacity, which allows room for more cargo and a more spacious environment for the taikonauts.
We have optimized the orbital module product and layout of the spacecraft. Our research and development team have conducted a lot of tests and experiments in order to fully verify its transport capability.
This year also marks a momentous occasion, the 25th anniversary of the maiden flight of China's Shenzhou spacecraft, the Shenzhou-1. From that historic moment to ambitious missions of today, generations of engineers have put their hearts and unwavering belief into this journey.
What we frequently say is that manned space flights are a matter of life and death. During the entire development process, we always kept this in mind. We display our rigorous, cautious, meticulous and practical work style to ensure that the entire work is foolproof.
The Shenzhou-19 spaceship has much lined up after taking off. The spaceship will dock with the China space station from the front port of the core module. The assembly already has the Shenzhou-18 spaceship attached. The Shenzhou-20 spacecraft is also standing by at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center for emergency rescue. Chen Yingling, CGTN from Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center.
Now, at the recently concluded International Astronautical Congress in Milan, Woolley spoke with Marco Antonio Chamon, the president of the Brazilian Space Agency, and he talked about the potential of future cooperation between the two countries.
President Marco Chamon, great to be with you here in Milan. What are some of the latest trends that you have seen and being impressed with during this event?
Very impressed here is the blossoming of the industry in space, the private industry, the private business we have here. One thing that is very impressive is space stations. We have a lot of proposals of private space stations doing by many companies here. I saw many companies providing complete solutions for small satellite constellations. In fact, a real revolution in space.
China and Brazil have collaborated in the space sector for over 35 years, with 6 China-Brazil Earth resource satellites being launched. So what can we expect for the collaboration between these two countries in the future?
We have today 2 satellites in orbit operating, Sirius 4 and 4A, that we share in terms of data and control. But now we are moving forward for other technologies. One, radar is very useful too for land imaging, and meteorology that is very important to us in terms of monitoring and forecasting of natural disasters. We will discuss and we will act in terms of lunar or space exploration outside the orbit of Earth with China. So it's a really fantastic and very fruitful collaboration that we have between Brazil and China.
Brazil and China are both founding members of the BRICS bloc. These countries have signed on to cooperate on the remote sensing constellation program. How important is this program for future collaboration in the space sector among BRICS countries?
We need more and more collaboration, and I think BRICS and other multilateral mechanisms, BRICS in particular, is very important for that. Remote sensing agreement that we have signed among BRICS countries is a very important sign that we can and we do things together. But we have already implemented some projects inside this agreement, and very successful. Training and capacity building for the use of the data. I think that the future for BRICS and BRICS Plus is to expand our collaboration in remote sensing, including other technologies and capacity building.
So, Wule, that was earlier this month for you in Milan, and Professor Yang, you were there as well. Talk to us about some of the highlights that you saw there. What stood out for you?
Oh, really? That was the largest space event every year. So this year was held in Milan. Next year will be held in Sydney, Australia. So this is the biggest gathering for space people.
Yeah.
Not only astronauts, but also scientists, experts, and engineers. Students come here to exchange their ideas, to talk about, discuss the latest collaborations. So one thing that really impressed me most was growing interest in China's space development, because this time China showcased the first samples collected from the far side of the moon by the Chang'e 6 mission. And every day, I can say that hundreds of thousands of people come to the China booth, space booth, and to see how it looks. And also many people inquire how can they borrow some or have some samples from these Chang'e 6 mission, because now China has already opened that to the whole world. The global scientist space organizations can apply to borrow the samples from this very precious cargo from the Chang'e 5 and Chang'e 6 missions. And the other thing is that China also presented the latest development. It's a commercial space sector, many rockets and also satellites and also other segment products in the space sector have been presented in the booth. And also I visited the NASA booth and also ESA booth and also India space booth. I can see that many countries around the world are now investing more in the space sector. Because nowadays you can see that with a lot of attention on the lunar missions and also on Mars and the other deep space exploration missions, a growing number of countries like Brazil, like India, and also other developing countries are investing more in the space sector. They want to take the advantage of a space exploration to develop their own space sector. And China has a space station now orbiting there, and also China proposed to build an international lunar research station. Over 15 countries and regions have already signed in. So a lot of countries want to collaborate with China on these lunar and also deep space missions. So in the future, we can see more collaboration will be expected in this area. And also for the astronauts side, many countries want to send the astronauts to China's space station. A lot of countries have already applied, and we are being told by the China Manned Space Agency in the future, foreign astronauts will come to China for the training, and they will be sent to China Space Station. They will work alongside with Chinese astronauts, scientists, engineers together to operate and do the space experiments. And last but not least, and I can feel that a growing number of commercial space applications have been provided in this exhibition. Many companies, private companies, they are offering a kind of commercial space application, or also private space station. A lot of private companies, they are offering a full set of a private space station, and also space travel, space tourism, and also space application. So in the next few years, I can see that a lot of private companies will pull in this kind of private space station, private lunar missions, private, a lot of private companies have been investing more in this space sector. So these are most of that impressed me most. So every time, although this is my second time attending the IAC, I have already found many changes. So we're hoping that more Chinese scientists and more Chinese engineers and also journalists can take the opportunity to go to these places to, like Professor Yang said, we are the bridge to bridge this kind of gap between the scientists and the public.
Right. What kind of changes then? Is it changes from the first time that you attended? In what areas of space development? Last year was held in Baku, in Azerbaijan, this year in Italy. So I can see that this year more European countries go to Italy, go to Milan. But we can feel that a growing number of Asian countries, developing countries like the many African countries also go there. I talked to the CEO of South African National Space Agency. They also showcased they have brought over, I can remember that 15 private companies from South African. They are showcasing their latest development about the satellites and like the micro satellites, and also they are hoping to be part of the whole space sector. So I can feel that a growing number of developing countries, they are hoping to take part in this kind of whole sector, because that for the space sector they have rockets, they have satellites, they have facilities, training, a lot of things that you can be part of this whole ecosystem. So I can feel that not only in the past, only the US, Russia, and also ESA, a lot of developed countries have been in this game or this sector, but now a lot of developing countries are joining in. So this is one of my big impressions. Is that a trend that you saw as well over there, Professor Yang?
Well, that my duty is the chair of the Space Transportation Committee, so I should monitor the 9 sessions we are in charge of. So every day on my way to the room conducting the session, I can very frankly see Mr. Wu Lei has an interview with an important person. Some of them are my friends. Also, the IAC, or the International Astronautical Congress, is the right place for communication between different sectors. So for this, usually we call this the Olympic game in space field. So we have the guys from the governments, from the universities, from the industry, from the private firms, from the other organizations or NGOs. We just heard a voice from the ground commander. Yeah. Another
systems check-in, making sure that everything is in order.
So let's continue our topic. That during IAC, Mr. Wu, I believe because as he mentioned, he attended the Congress in Azerbaijan last year in Baku. So what impressed me most that because although you know that Azerbaijan is a very small country, but it's very enthusiastic on hosting the IAC, and you can even get your badge in the airport, very convenient. And also you can even see the logos of IAC on taxis. So that is what impressed me most. Of course, this time there are more delegates, more than 11 or 12,000 delegates.
A record number.
Another record. Also, the papers delivered to my committee also make a record. So we have a very tough task to select the right papers, very hard choice, because many of them are very, very good papers, but still very hard for us to choose. But still, I should also emphasize that the IEF community should plays a leading role in the communication and better understanding of different organizations. We have a concept of the 3G, or gender, geography, generation. So today we see the launch of the Shenzhou-19 crew with different gender, with different generation. And of course, with the view of China with different geography, because they come from different provinces in China. So the 3G is a basic concept of the IF community to have more concern on diversity. So this is a right consideration to improve the better understanding of the communication between different areas of the world and to benefit the whole world.
And with more emerging countries, more developing countries joining in the space game, they are going to be looking for more collaboration, possibly with China as well. So what potential areas do you see then for this sort of cooperation, collaboration in space?
Yeah, during this IEC, I think a lot of countries showing interest in the International Lunar Research Station that I mentioned, because over the next few decades, I think that will be a mega project on the moon, on the south of the moon. And they are going to build, a permanent base. The scientists, the astronauts, engineers will be working there and to study the lunar resource, and also take that opportunity to continue the deep space exploration. And during this IC, the Chinese city of Hefei has already applied to host another IC in 2028. So the deep space exploration lab, the headquarters is in Hefei city.
Exactly.
So the deep space exploration lab is going to host, planning to host the IC 2028. So we are hoping that more scientists, engineers can take this opportunity to know the latest developments about the International Lunar Research Station. So during this time, this week in Milan, I met a lot of scientists and also engineers. They want to know what is the latest about this International Lunar Research Station, who will be joining this, and what kind of experiments can be conducted aboard this lunar research station. And China has been quite open because the U.S. is now taking the Artemis mission back to the moon, but also a lot of other countries are also trying to conduct some kind of private lunar missions, and China is no exception because at this period of time, lunar missions, and also don't forget the Mars mission. China will conduct the Tianwen-2 and Tianwen-3 Mars mission in the next few years. For the Tianwen-3, China aims to have the Mars sample return mission before around 2028. No country has ever done that before. And Chinese scientists have already said they are quite open. They welcome more international collaboration on the Mars missions. And also the Tianwen-2 mission is quite trying to hit asteroids and to try to change its course with this satellite. So a lot of experiments can be expected in the next few years. And also we know the Tiangong space station, the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs. We also met the director this time, and she said she will continue the collaboration with China Manned Space Agency. They have already selected the first batch, but with ongoing expansion of the China space station, more experiments, more countries will join the China space station. So we can expect from the manned missions to the lunar missions to the Mars missions, and also the private space, also the scientific, satellites. Next year in 2025, China and ESA will conduct has already collaborated in a satellite called SMILE satellite.
Right.
It is already being assembled and on the way to Europe. That satellite was the latest collaboration between China and ESA. It will be launched in Europe, in France. And also, so we can expect this year we talked about the China-France collaboration of Swarm satellite, very long collaboration between China and France. So in the next few years, we can expect more this kind of collaboration in the satellites. So I think can see from different levels of collaboration, from satellites to joint missions, joint trainings, and also lunar Mars missions. So we as journalists, we are quite excited to see this kind of joint missions, especially when the foreign astronauts come to China.
Yeah.
If we have the opportunity, we are very excited to record every training and every mission about working together. We're hoping that the foreign astronaut and working together with Chinese astronaut aboard the Tiangong space station. I think we will see that day coming very soon.
It's definitely so many developments to be watching out for. Watch this space, shall we say?
Exactly.
Lin, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your experiences and insights.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great having you here. And we'll be sure to talk more about the cooperation later in the program. Over the decades, China's aerospace industry has grown from weak to strong and has achieved various achievements in space science, technology, and application. And generations of visionary scientists and engineers committed to the space industry have made their contributions to China's development and human space exploration.
Good morning. Communication. Navigation. Weather monitoring.
Winds over the
This is a series of locations that's being read out right now. It all sounds like everything's in order.
Yeah, this is the checking of the communications in between the ground stations. That is going to be keeping tracking and data collections throughout the process. So we know that the rocket is going to fly along this trajectory. Underneath those are the stations that can check them from horizon to horizon. So all the way, what we call overpassing your head. So all the process, all the complete process of the launching will be monitored. So because it's human-rated launching campaign, so we need to be very careful in collecting all the data along the track of the launching.
Well, let's go to our reporters. We have Sun Ye, who's at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, and we have Zheng Yibing, who's at the Beijing Aerospace Control Center. Hi, guys, once again. Sun Ye, so what's happening over there now? Tell us what you're seeing from the angle you're standing at. We can see the launch tower right behind you.
Right. Hello, Jiayang. Hello again from 1.5 kilometers away from the launch pad. I think you can see it too. The tip of the rocket has revealed the launch hour is getting closer. We all heard that 1 hour countdown. We also heard calling out each system and asking them to report their status. Many of them have said normal, and we also, in between that hour, we talked we talked to experts with the launch center system, with the spaceship system, with the rocket system, and their updates also have been unanimous. Things have been going according to plan, and things are going as smoothly as it can be. Now, the Shenzhou mission, it has become quite a regular mission, twice every year, once in spring, the other time, like now, in fall or autumn. But even if it's a regular mission now, we still see people here trying to better the entire process. Now, the experts from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center say they've been trying to optimize the entire launch cycle and the test process. They've been doing so by making the whole process smarter and more automatic. They say their aim is to keep everything going perfect, but also make it more efficient. They've told us in the last few days that they have been working to make the launch towers work more, that they had a higher frequency of use, and they're also shortening the recovery time after each launch, and that really makes sense. Earlier, I think you talked about this year marks the 25th year since Shenzhou-19 launched. In 1999, the launch frequency is nowhere it is right now. In fact, the first 100 launches for this launch center was achieved in 48 years, but the next 100 launches at this launch center was achieved in just 5 years, between 2018 to 2023, and that really speaks to how fast China's space industry is developing and its need for more launches. Now, the launch center also said that this place has great terrain and weather. It says it's clear for launch 300 days out of every 365 days. So that's the room for growth with all of those launches. And as we said earlier, the launch cycles and the test processes have been optimized. That's including this one. This Shenzhou-19 mission had seen its test process shortened, and I think you're hearing it now. Another command is going to be issued as we near the launch hour. Jiayang.
So yeah, thank you so much. And now let's go over to Yibing. Yibing, so an hour to go, less than an hour to go. What's happening where you are? What the sort of preparations are being done there?
Well, good early morning, Zhou Yang. Well, in less than whenever the Shenzhou-19 spacecraft will be launched from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. Here, we're at the core, the coordinating center for this whole mission, the Beijing Aerospace Control Center. As you can see, as you can hear, well, actually the center is going through the system check with all the ground team for this mission. And we also see the constantly heated brief command from the Beijing Aerospace Control Center. We can hear the Beijing command with all working systems. And also we can see the status of the Shenzhou-19 crew on the big screen behind me. We can see the 3 Chinese astronauts or the taikonauts are in the spacesuit. They are in the spacecraft. They look calm and determined for this mission. And the Beijing Aerospace Control Center oversees the whole working system. The personnel are busy working here at this early morning. So I have to lower my voice. And it coordinates all the systems for the launch, during the launch sequence. And also it will establish the measurement and control during the later stage via the relay terminals and satellites. It guarantees a smooth and safe journey of the Shenzhou-19 spacecraft to the Tiangong space station. And well, this time, the Shenzhou-19 spacecraft will dock with the Tiangong space station after the early stage of the flight. During the 7 previous China manned space missions, from the Shenzhou-12 3 years ago to Shenzhou-18 6 months ago on this year, and we can see that all 7 missions adopt the faster rendezvous and docking mode. It took about 6.5 hours to get the Shenzhou spacecraft to the Tiangong space station. So this time, for the Shenzhou-19 mission, it adopts the same mode. So after this faster rendezvous and docking, we can see the exciting moment of the space meet between the 2 Shenzhou crews in China space station. Back to you.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Yibing, and we'll check in with you again later. Well, I have to say, I don't envy Sun Ye out there in the cold in northwest China there at the Satellite Launch Center. Even the rocket, as they were saying, needs a heat shield of some sort. Can you just explain to us a little bit more about that? How does it work? Why is it needed? Is it for the astronauts? Is it for the technology, the equipment itself?
Actually speaking, our launch complex, the design is very advanced, although it made many years before. You know that, as I mentioned, the launch complex has the service tower, while the service tower have 4 rotational platforms. So just before the launch, before the countdown, maybe 2 hours before, we can form a closed envelope for the whole launch vehicle. So it has air conditioners inside, so it can keep a very comfortable temperature for the launch vehicle and for the Shenzhou spacecraft. Moreover, you know that also we have air conditioning and ventilation system inside the payload ferry. So that's the reason we can have a right temperature. Moreover, as we've already discussed, actually speaking, from the view of necessity, you know that the Long March 2F rocket uses a hypergolic propulsion system, which means that its fuel and the oxidizer, the propellant, work in room temperature. So that is more convenient to use. So usually under the, you know, that in Jiuquan satellite launch, we can even launch the Long March 2F in extremely cold. I can remember maybe in 20 years before, we launched the Long March 2F in December or November. So that's much colder than today. So even in that extremely cold weather, we can launch Long March 2F. So that do not have any problem today.
So at least above 0 today. So then why does the 19 have this specially designed first ever heat shield?
Well, you see that for every mission, to my understanding, you know that every time we have the very special experiments. For instance, during the previous some Tianzhou cargo ship missions, and also during our previous Shenzhou missions, we have some biological experiments. And the samples is very interesting. Must be made just maybe 1 or 2 hours before the launch, and then brought into the cabin. So this is a very good example of the special requirement to the launch vehicle and to the spacecraft itself.
And you see temperature inside the spacecraft, is that why?
Not only temperature, massive? You know that they are living things, as Yansu already mentioned. So, for instance, some cells to check the certain biological study, they must be made just before the launch, several hours. And today with the refrigerator on board our Tianzhou spacecraft and maybe also on our Shenzhou spacecraft, we can have a lower temperature for some samples. So this means that we have more advanced measures to have more complicated experiments. So maybe this is one of the reasons. But of course, for any sample, you may still remember that during the live coverage of CGTN on the return of the on the Chang'e 5 mission, we also have similar measures on the re-entry capsule to keep it warm.
Yeah.
So exactly. So of course, from the view of our designers and also those made these products, they always recognize this as their own kids.
Okay.
So this is the reason, I believe, part of the reason.
Almost like just testing out new gear and technology.
Even some of the Russian capsules, in outer space, they have their coatings. It's like a warm jacket out in outer space because, the extreme temperature difference between the shadow and the solar side of the vehicles can be radical, can be 200 or 300 degrees different. So heat exchange and also thermal protections are very important, especially for manned missions with biological organs on board. So I think, once you see the rocket on the pad, you see that there's ventilation and power system still going on into the launch vehicle itself. With -2 and -1 hour launching preparations, we can see a sequence of unlocking of the rocket itself. It's fully fueled, but there are some keys that needs to be removed. It's just like an airplane. You have to remove them before you fly them. So those are locks. You have to unlock the rocket before you ignite them. So these are part of the sequence that we're doing. We can also see some umbilical cords that going into the rocket.
What will be connected through those cords?
Those are, first is the power,
right.
And second is the communications. And these are connected to the launch vehicle because the launch vehicle batteries are limited and has to be reserved. We see that the indication of a successful launch is the deployment of the solar array. So later on we're going to see that once the solar array is deployed, we have power on board, and then the launching is a success. So before that, we used the ground support system in communications, in power supplies, even in air conditions for the astronauts. So all of these are going to use the ground until the last minute. We
preserve the battery.
To preserve the battery, preserve the power on board, so that they can be used in outer space.
What Yan-Song has already mentioned, the transfer of the power supply is a very critical milestone for the launch sequence. You know that, as Yan-Song has mentioned, we use both on the launch vehicles and also on the Shenzhou spacecraft, we use the storage batteries, sometimes zinc silver batteries, some lithium batteries to store the electricity. But you know that the capacity is limited, so we hope that we can remain more to the orbit, so it can increase the reliability and ensure the safety of the mission. So for most testing, we conducted that utilize power supply on the ground with the cables connected to the launch vehicle and the spacecraft as well. So you can see that at the moment, you can still see that the 4 platforms,
only the top ones
are still closed, and now we are open another one.
The very
but
bottom
even
one,
after all these 4 platforms are opened, still we can see some very small arms connected to the launch vehicle. On these arms, we have the cables, we have the pipes connected to the launch vehicle, and they can not only provide the electricity, but they can also provide some gas, liquid, to the launch vehicle. So this is a very important facility on our launch complex, and usually before the launch, before the rollout of the launch vehicle from the VAB to the launch pad, usually we will also have conducting some tests to ensure all these facilities goes well. So this is very important to ensure the successful launch. So that is the reason when I say that the launch itself is not only the business of the launch vehicle itself. The launch site system also plays a very, very important role. And moreover, to have all these data, you can ensure and or you judge the whether it is correct or not. You need the TT and C system, and you need the data handling system. So all these systems are very, very critical for the launch itself. It is also very interesting that, before the launch, we must ensure that in the dropping area of the substages, in the drop area of the boosters, we must ensure it's already safe enough. do not have residents
How
inside.
accurate can that be? How accurate?
It cannot be 100% accurate. So there is a theoretical landing point, but usually surround this landing point, we have a dropping area because we have errors and also the influence of wind.
It's all calculated on the trajectory of the spacecraft.
Maybe several hundred
basically at village level.
So just before, so that is the reason why it costs more money if you launch this inland. So if you launch the launch vehicle on the seashore, the dropping area will be located in the sea. It's much simpler.
But do they still need to retrieve all the parts from the ocean? Is there an obligation to do this?
They just make sure that the residents are safe. A normal practice is to collect all the villagers, go to a movie.
Oh,
exactly.
Collect the people.
Yeah, collect the people and move them to safe areas to, let them enjoy a movie, and then the drop zone is done, and they can return to their home. If there are damages, we compensate.
Yes, but there's no requirement in terms of safety or security issues to retrieve these parts that have been
No,
jettisoned.
it's not mandatory.
It's not. Okay.
Sometimes it drops in a very remote areas. So basically, it's designed in such a way. So that's why Hainan, because the drop zones are in the ocean.
Right.
So we don't have to recover from the ocean. But we do have, new generations of rockets that can recover back to Earth. It's like SpaceX, they launch and they recover the engine, and so that they can quickly reuse them again. So these what we call reusable launch vehicles instead of expendable. Traditionally, we call these are expendable launch vehicles.
Right.
You launch them once and you abandon them. But new technologies are coming. Commercial companies are picking up these technologies that they want to recover the first and second stage of the launch vehicle so that it can be reused again and cut the cost of the launching.
Would these reusable parts be more viable financially too?
Yeah.
I imagine the cost of making something like this would also be pretty big, and the retrieval.
Normally, it's calculated by the kilos per orbit. 1 kilo is roughly $10,000 for 1 kilo payloads on board.
Let's look at the screen. You can see that, as I mentioned, the platform, the rotational platform on the bottom, or the fourth one, has already opened. We can now see the 4 boosters. Each of the booster of the Long March 12 have a diameter of 2.25 meters, and each of the booster have 1 rocket engine with a thrust about 75 metric tons, with the same thrust of the engine used on the first stage. In the core stage of the first core stage, we have 4 engines, each with a thrust of 75 metric tons. So the total liftoff thrust of the launch vehicle is 600 metric tons. So that is the liftoff thrust of this launch vehicle.
We're hearing again the ground stations checking in. Seems to be a report of the conditions on the oceans.
Yes, it's the ocean-going boat that for TT&C purpose.
What the voice mentioned, the Changjiang 3号 is the name of the Yuanwang 3 space tracking ship. So it's now in the Pacific Ocean, and based on the report, there do have some tide, about 2 meters high. Yeah. So that's the tide also influence the stability of the ship. So it will influence the tracking functions of the antennas. So this is also very critical. So that is the reason why we need to have this kind of report.
So eventually, once this spaceship, once it lifts off and it starts jettisoning off all its parts, right, all will be left would be the part that's at the very top of the tower that we can see now? Like all the rest will just be...
Not even the top of the tower, because the top of the tower is going to be escape tower. And the escape tower is going to be abandoned again. So it's going to be... first is the drop of the strap-on boosters or side boosters, and then the escape tower.
Escape tower.
Escape tower. And then the strap-on boosters, and then the fairing, and then the first stage and the second stage.
And eventually just...
And eventually just the service module and the capsule. The orbital module.
Okay,
sorry.
T-minus 40 minutes and counting. So in different stages, we have different checking sequences.
So what happens at 40 minutes?
Well,
T-minus 40
T-minus
minutes.
40 minutes, I believe that many critical trainings of the Shenzhou spacecraft and the launch vehicle has already been successfully conducted. And you can see at this moment we are continuing. I believe that's another rotational platform is now opening. So we can see more and more of the fuselage of the Long March 12. The Long March 12, as I mentioned, is only one human-rated launch vehicle in China. It can meet the requirement of the high requirement to the reliability and safety to carry astronauts to outer space. And this rocket is derived from the Long March 2E. Long March 2E is the first launch vehicle in China that use strap-on boosters, the side boosters. So this is, actually speaking, this is also concerned with commercial space mode. You know that in the late 1980s and in the early 1990s, China hopes to enter the international launch service market. But at that moment, we do not have a powerful enough launch vehicle. So it is very interesting that at that moment, still, we do not have the technology of the side boosters, and we just deliver the design, the proposal to our customers in US, and then they agreed, and then we get the chance to design and make this Long March 2F and conducted some flight test, and then to utilize this in the commercial market. So this is the story. Although it is conducted by a state-owned company, but it is completely commercial activity. So that's very interesting.
Well, let's hear from the researcher of this spaceship system, and our reporter Chen Yiling spoke to him.
The Shenzhou-19 is the fourth manned spacecraft for a mission to China's space station in its use and development stage. Its structure consists of 3 modules, similar to the previous Shenzhou spacecrafts.
The Shenzhou manned spacecraft is mainly composed of 3 sections, namely the orbital module, the re-entry module, and the propellant module. The orbital module is mainly the work and living area for the taikonauts after entering orbit and is equipped with sensors for rendezvous and docking with the Tiangong space station. The re-entry module can be seen as a cockpit. The propellant module is equipped with solar panels and engines, mainly to provide power.
The main upgrade of the Shenzhou-19 spacecraft is its loading capacity, which allows room for more cargo and a more spacious environment for the taikonauts.
We have optimized the orbital module product and layout of the spacecraft. Our research and development team have conducted a lot of tests and experiments in order to fully verify its transport capability.
This year also marks a momentous occasion, the 25th anniversary of the maiden flight of China's Shenzhou spacecraft, the Shenzhou-1. From that historic moment to ambitious missions of today, generations of engineers have put their hearts and unwavering belief into this journey.
What we frequently say is that manned space flights are a matter of life and death. During the entire development process, we always kept this in mind. We display our rigorous, cautious, meticulous and practical work style to ensure that the entire work is foolproof.
The Shenzhou-19 spaceship has much lined up after taking off. The spaceship will dock with the China space station from the front port of the core module. The assembly already has the Shenzhou-18 spaceship attached. The Shenzhou-20 spacecraft is also standing by at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center for emergency rescue. Qinling, CGTN from Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center.
So the Long March 2F rocket that's lifting the Shenzhou-19 crew is China's only manned carrier rocket. It has now been 25 years since the model's first flight. Here's Sun Ye with more.
For the Shenzhou-19 mission launch, the final leg of the journey for its spacecraft and carrier rocket combination starts from here at the iconic assembly tower here at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center.
The transport to the launch pad process has the rocket and spacecraft combination moving upright or along. In China, this way of transporting upright or vertical has started with the Long March 2F rocket.
The three vertical mode refers to vertical assembly, vertical transport, and vertical launch. The Long March 2F rocket is China's first three vertical mode rocket. Subsequent rockets, such as the Long March 5 and Long March 7, which are currently in service, as well as the future Next Generation manned rocket, all use this three vertical mode.
Ever since the rollout process, the Long March 2F rocket responsible for the Shenzhou-19 mission has stood tall and straight. Its uprightness gets further fine-tuned after propellant loading.
You can see four green column-like support arms. Through these, the rocket's verticality can be precisely controlled. Generally, it is adjusted to within 1 minute, that is, within the range of 1/60th of a degree.
25 years ago, in 1999, it was a Long March 2F rocket that sent China's first experimental spaceship, the Shenzhou-19, into space. That was the rocket's first flight. As China's only manned carrier rocket in use at the moment, it has an all-success track record, and is still improving. 孙烨 CGTN 酒泉 Gansu Province.
So earlier when I was speaking to Wu Lei, he mentioned, after having reported on so many launches and returns, that this is one of the earliest launches for a manned space mission that he's aware of. Normally, I guess they're in the evenings. So what do you think the considerations are for this particular timing at 4:30 in the morning?
There is no other choices. As already mentioned many times, that the basic requirement for a chasing vehicle like our Shenzhou spacecraft to rendezvous and dock with our Tiangong space station, the most essential requirement is that it must in the same orbital plane with the Tiangong space station. So that it is located now in the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. So the only chance for the launch is that the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center rotate along with the Earth, and when it passing through the orbital plane of our Tiangong station. So only at this moment we can conduct the launch. So every day is different. So for today, it's early in the morning. So that is the reason, the most important reason.
So there is a launch window almost every day?
Theoretically speaking, there are launch window every day. But that's based on the case that you don't care how much time you need from the launch to the rendezvous with the Tiangong space station. But as we've already discussed, today we adopted a fast rendezvous and docking. To entering the same orbit plane is one matter, but how the distance is in the same orbit is another matter. So for the fast rendezvous and docking, theoretically speaking, it do not have chance every day. So for this kind of 6-hour or even shorter fast rendezvous and docking, it is a more strict requirement to the relative position between the chasing vehicle and the target vehicle. So for this kind of requirement, usually it do not have the launch window every day. And also, usually, to make more of these chances, we need active orbit maneuver of our Tiangong space station to change its, what we call the phase, or with the change of its altitude, we can change the period of the whole orbit, and then with this, we can change the chance to have a fast rendezvous and docking.
So put it simply, if you want to have a quick and efficient launch and quick rendezvous, now is the time. But you can choose other times, but it consumes more gas, more power, more fuel, and takes longer time, and increase the safety risks, and also increase the cost and many designs and trajectories. So trajectory speaking, Professor Yang mentioned about the inclinations, the plane, the orbital plane, which is the angle that the space station is traveling in relative to the equator of the Earth. So that has to happen at this moment, because it happens today at this moment at 4:27 that these two vehicles are going to be traveling at the same plane. And then you can have a quick rendezvous and docking without too much maneuvers in orbit, which also can cause issues.
So essentially, they picked this time for being the most efficient and the
because
fastest.
you know that for every Shenzhou spacecraft, we only have limited propellants installed.
Right.
So that is the reason we hope that we can save more propellants during the chasing phase. So with this measure, we can save the propellant. Okay.
I think we're about to hit the countdown.
Okay, T minus 30 minutes and counting. So this is we are more closer to the launch.
So Shenzhou-19 will be launching in 30 minutes time, and looking at that full view of the launch tower there, and we've got just one more rotating platform left. Is it one or two? I can't really tell now from this angle.
I think there are two.
Two more left.
Now we can see still there are two rotational platforms
That'll be
closed.
The two in the middle. That's still
two in the middle.
Waiting to open. So at this 30-minute countdown, this is a pretty critical stage, and as you were explaining earlier,
and
every stage
maybe
comes
will
with
be
something.
the 20 minutes or 10 minutes, T minus 10 minutes and counting.
So in terms of the astronauts themselves, I think all checks will have been completed for them, right? It's now just a technical, some technical matters to go through.
Well, one of the most important check is that to check the airtight sealing of the helmet. So you know that's the